Uh, I welcome all of you to the today's class of chemistry for class 10 on date 24 November 2020. Today, my dear students, we are going to study about the homologous series of the functional group aldehyde, ketones, carboxylic acids and esters. We will study about the various formulas like molecular formula, structural formula, Lewis dot formula and condensed formula. And my dear students, we are going to study about the nomenclature of the carbon compounds. How can we give names to the various compounds uh, of carbon? So this is how, my dear students, we are going to study today the various things. Let us move forward and revise whatever we have studied yesterday. In the yesterday's class, my dear students, we have seen the general formula and the homologous series of alkene like ethene, propene, butene, pentene, hexene, heptene, octane, nonene, and decene. Same way, my dear students, we have studied about the general formula of alkynes, and then we have studied the various molecular formulas for these compounds, and then we have studied the homologous series for alkynes, that is CnH2n minus 2, that is ethyne, propane, butane, pentane, hexane, heptane, octane, nonene, and decyne. We have studied about the classification of the hydrocarbon compounds. So during our classification, my dear students, we try to study how this hydrocarbon can be classified. This hydrocarbon initially can be classified in two major classes. The first class is the open chain, and the another class is the closed chain. Or first class, we can say it's a acyclic hydrocarbon, or second class is known as the cyclic hydrocarbon or ring hydrocarbons. And then we have studied about the alkane, alkene and alkyne with the general formula CnH2n plus 2, CnH2n and CnH2n minus 2. My dear students, we have even studied about the cyclic compounds like cyclobutane, cyclopropane and cyclohexane. They even have the general formula very similar to the general formula of alkene. Then, my dear students, we have studied about the various closed chain compounds. We have studied cyclopropane. We have studied about cyclobutane with the 4 carbon. We have studied about the cyclopentane with the 5 carbon. We have studied about the cyclohexane with the 6 carbon. We have studied a unique compound called benzene. And we have seen that in benzene there are 3 alternative bonds. These 3 alternative bonds in benzene can have the another position, my dear students. So we study the even the another position of these benzenes, or this double bond in the another form of benzene. Both the forms you can consider them as a correct structure. The molecular formula of benzene is C6H6, and just the double bond can be altered this way, my dear students, that we can alter this double bond. We can easily alter the double bond, and we can show it in some other manner. You can see here that there was a double bond here. Now, in the another structure, we can have the double bond at some other place. We can have this double bond here, and here we will have only single bond. So this is how, my dear students, we can alter the double bond, and both the structures for benzene are correct, and they both represent our benzene, that is C6H6. Then we have studied about the definition of the functional group, that an atom or a group of atoms structured in unique fashion, and reactive side of the compound responsible for all the chemical characteristics of the compound is known as the functional group. We have seen that in organic compound we have two parts, one is functional group, another is skeleton. Then, my dear students, we have studied about the various functional groups. Functional group contains atom, other than carbon and hydrogen, whereas skeleton has got the atoms only of carbon and hydrogen. We in this standard we are going to study the chloro, bromo, iodo, and fluoro functional group, as well as we are going to study alcohol, aldehyde, ketones, carboxylic acids, and esters as a functional group in our 10th standard. Then, my dear students, yesterday we have studied about the homologous series of the alcohol. We have seen that alcohol, if you remove the one hydrogen from the alkane, and instead of that hydrogen if you put OH, it turns into alcohol. When you write the name of the hydrocarbon methane, you just remove this E and add all so that you can get the name of the alcohol. And this is how for first carbon we write methanol, 2 carbon ethanol, 3 carbon propanol, 4 carbon butanol, 5 carbon pentanol, and 6 carbon hexanol. Each member differs from its preceding and succeeding member by 14 U mass and by the CH2 group. So this is what it is, the general characteristics of the homologous series, my dear students. Now, my dear students, we are going to study in detail about the other homologous series for our class. So let's move forward and study about the other homologous series for our class. Now, my dear students, let's study the homologous series for the next functional group, that is the aldehyde. So now you can see here on your screen that we have the homologous series for the aldehyde compounds, my dear students. You can see that aldehyde has got the C double bond O group. So now the two bonds of carbon have been involved with the oxygen. So two hydrogen remains, or here you can, two valency has been left. Here you can join anything, or here you can join two different groups. But here if you join at least one hydrogen, then this type of compounds are known as the aldehydes. So but if you join hydrogen both the way, that is also an aldehyde, and that is why to make an aldehyde we need minimum one carbon. And that is the reason why, my dear students, that whenever we have a aldehyde, we can start the homologous series of aldehyde with one carbon. If we take methane, which is CH4, now what happens? You remove this two hydrogen, and instead of this two hydrogen, you make a double bond with this carbon and with the oxygen. So this is how you can make methanol. You can see that two hydrogen are removed and one oxygen is bonded with the two bond with the carbon, and this is how we get the methanol. You can see even that from the methane we have removed E and have added the suffix Al. So the suffix for our aldehyde is Al, my dear students. So E is removed and Al is added, and this is how, my dear students, we understand about the nomenclature of aldehyde. You can see, my dear students, for one carbon we write meth, for two carbon we write eth, for three carbon we write prop, for four carbon we write but. So it's methane al because it is aldehyde. Al is the suffix for the aldehydes, and we have methanol HCHO, ethanol CH3CHO. Now you can easily see, my dear students, that when you have methanol, you have one H. This H is added to CH2, so it turns out to be CH3. And thus, from one carbon to two carbon, when we move, an extra CH2 group is added to the compound, and that is why from methanol, when we move from methanol to ethanol, we add actually CH2. So each time when we add CH2, we get propanol. From propanol, if we add CH2, we get butanol. Apart from these formulas, my dear students, we can even write their molecular formulas. So for methanol, we write CH2O or CH2O. For ethanol, we can write C2H4O. For propanol, we can write C3H6O. And for butanol, my students, we write C4H8O. Each time when you add an extra CH2, you come from one compound to the another compound, and that is how the homologous series is formed. We know that in the homologous series, each member is differed from its preceding and succeeding member by CH2. For 5 carbon, we write pentanol, that is C5H10O, and for 6 carbon, we write hexanol, that is C6H12O. Each member of this homologous series differs from its preceding and succeeding member by CH2 group or 14U mass. Now here we have the first member of the homologous series is your methanol. So methanol is the first member of the homologous series. This methanol is also known as the formaldehyde. Please remember, my dear students, that methanol is also known as formaldehyde. Sometimes the 4% solution, please remember this, the 4% solution of methanol, this 4% solution of methanol is known as formalin, and this 4% solution of methanol, which is known as formalin, is used to save the biological specimens. So whatever the biological specimens you see in your biology lab, my dear students, they are saved into the 4% solution of methanol, which is also known as formalin. So this is how, my dear students, you can easily understand this. Then we have the ethanol. This ethanol, my dear student, is also known as the acetaldehyde. So remember that methanol is known as formaldehyde, whereas ethanol is known as acetaldehyde. So sometime for one carbon we write form. Please remember that for one carbon we write form, but for two carbon we write acetone. So for one carbon, my dear students, we write form, but for two carbon we write acid. So this is how we understand the common names. These formaldehyde and acetaldehyde are known as the common names of the aldehyde, which are known as the methanol or propanol. So, my dear students, we have studied about the homologous series of aldehydes. Now let's move and study the homologous series of ketones. Let us study about the homologous series of ketones. Ketones, my dear students, again have this C double bond O group, but they do not have any hydrogen directly bonded to this carbon. Remember, in ketones, you cannot bond the hydrogen here. No. In ketones, you cannot bond any hydrogen. So in ketone, this C double bond O must be directly bonded with some carbon. That is what it is, the basic necessity. So you can see that in ketone you need at least 3 carbon, 1, 2 and 3. And that is why the first member of homologous series of ketone start with at least 3 members. Please remember that in a unique structure of ketone, at least 3 carbons are needed, and that is why ketones, the first member of ketone always start from the 3 carbon. Now when we want to study the homologous series of ketone, my dear students, the suffix that we use is on. Now when it comes to the 3 carbon, generally for the alkane, we write propane. For the alkane of 3 carbon, my dear students, we write propane, Propane. Instead of this E, my dear students, instead of this E, we will add on. So the next, when we write about the first ketone, what we can write, it is prop A, P-R-O-P-A-N, propane, O-N-E. This is the suffix O-N-E we add and we get the propano. So remember, when we give the names to the ketones, my dear students, the first member of the homologous series of ketone is acetone. This acetone is the common name, please remember. Acetone is the common name for the first member, but we have just written. Now, how do we write the IUPAC name for this compound? So we write the IUPAC name by adding proper suffix or prefix. So from the name of the alkane, E is removed and on is added, So with the 3 carbon atom, we have propane, we remove E and we add ONE, and this is how, my dear students, we get this propanone. You can see here on your screen that we have a name which is written as a propanone. So this propanone is the name for the first acetone or propanone. So propanone is the first member of the homologous series of ketone. You can see that with this C double bond O, we have two CH3 group bonded to each other, and this is how, my dear students, we get the propanone. Now, my dear students, we can study about the other members. Like from propanone, we can move to the butanone. So if you look at the butanone, my dear students, I have shown you the butanone here in this box. This butanone has got 4 carbon. Propanone was CH3COCH3. This propanone has got 2 names. One name is acetone, another name is propanone. Please remember. So these 2 names belong to the same compound. One is, this is the common name, whereas this is what it is known as the IUPAC name. Same way, my dear students, butane has 4 carbon. If you just add one CH3 here or CH2 here, if you add one CH2 here or if you add one CH2 here, my dear students, you are going to get butanone. You can see CH3CO, CH2, CH3 or CH3, CH2, CO, CH3. This is what you write it for butanone. Now, you can write the structure of the butanone with 2 different manners, as you can see here, that you can write butanone in this manner where on CO is on second number. You can write the butanone in this manner where the CO is on third number from the left side. But my dear students, if you start giving number from right side, the CO will be again on second number. From left side, if you start giving number, the CO will be always on second number, and that is why the butanone can be simply written as 2-butanone. That means if you write only butanone or if you write 2-butanone, you actually give the same compound for this. Same way, my dear students, when we look at the 5 carbon member, we have pentanone. But if you take CO on the second position, we will call it 2-pentanone. But if CO is there on the third position, we will call it 3-pentanone. Please remember, my dear students, that this carbonyl position, this CO bond which is present in ketone, is, if it is on second position, we will call it 2-pentanone. If it is on third position, we will call it 3-pentanone. Same way, my dear students, if we look at the compound which is having 6 carbon, this CO can be on second position, this CO can be on third position. But when we put it on the fourth position and start giving number from the right side, it again comes on the third position. So that is why, my dear students, we can have only 2 type of hexanon. One is known as the 2-hexanon when you have the carbonyl group on second position, and you can have the 3-hexanon when you have carbonyl either from the left side on third position or from the right side on third position. Even if you write the hexanon in this manner, my dear students, I am going to show you, even if you write the hexanon in this manner, you can see on your screen that if you write the hexanon CH3, CH2, 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 CO, and CH3, this is also going to be your 2-hexanon, because from left side you can say it is on the fourth position, but from right side it is on the second position, and whatever the lowest position it is found, that is what we take for naming, and that is why it is the 2-hexanon. So this is how, my dear students, we can give names to the uh, various ketones, and remember that all the members of this ketone series, they also differs from their preceding and succeeding member by CH2. You can see here that in CH C3H6 or in C5H10, if you add CH2, you will get C6H6. But if you add, if you remove one CH2, you will get C4H6, which is butane, that is of 4 carbon. So I hope, my dear students, you understood about the homologous series of our ketones. Now, my dear students, we are going to study about the homologous series of the new functional group, which is known as the carboxylic acid. This carboxylic acid functional group has a structure of this format, my dear students, that it has got one C double bond O, then you may have one O and one H, or you can even represent it at is in this manner, that C double bond O and then you have OH. But this side of the carbon remain vacant. So here you can either join H or you can join any other alkyl group or carbon. So, my dear students, this carboxylic acid functional group can also be made with single carbon, and that is why the first member of the carboxylic acid series also goes or is also having the single carbon. So let us understand this, the homologous series for the hydrocarbon. But remember that the homologous series for hydrocarbon can also be started with the single carbon. Now, my dear students, the suffix for this carboxylic acid is oic acid. So we suppose for one carbon, my dear students, for one carbon we write methane. Now what happens, this E we remove and add this oic acid. So we remove E and then add oic acid. So from methane it becomes methanoic acid. From methane, when we remove E and we add oic acid, it becomes methanoic acid. So first member of the homologous series of carboxylic acid is your methanoic acid, which is written as HCOOH. Now how do we write HCOOH? Let us look at. I have already told my dear students that in carboxylic acid, we have the structure of the functional group as this. So you can have this C double bond O. Here you have OH. You just add H here. Then it becomes methanoic acid. HCOOH, which can also be written as HC or which can be also said as HCOOH. And this is how, my dear students, we get the first member of the homologous series of carboxylic acid. Now you can see on your screen, my dear students, all the members of the homologous series of the carboxylic acid. The first member is methanoic acid, which is HCOOH, which can also be written as CH2O2. Now, if you add CH2 to this CH2 plus this H becomes CH3, and then we have COOH. So the second member is ethanoic acid. Now, if you add CH2 here, my dear students, you get the third member propanoic acid. One more CH2 here, you will get butanoic acid. One more CH2 here, you will get pentanoic acid. One more CH2 here, you will get hexanoic acid. So this is how we can see the methanoic acid, ethanoic acid, propanoic acid, butanoic acid, pentanoic acid and hexanoic acid in the homologous series of the carboxylic acid. Each member differs by CH2 or 14 U mass, my dear students. And my dear students, for homologous series of the carboxylic acid, we can write the general formula CnH2nO2. We can write the general formula CnH2nO2 for the all the members of the homologous series. Now, as we have seen into the aldehyde, my dear students, here in carboxylic acid even we have the common names. So these are the IUPAC names, my dear students. But we have seen that for one carbon, we use the word form in a common name. For two carbon, we use the word acid for the common name. So here, this methanoic acid can also be called formic acid, my dear students. And ethanoic acid can also be called acetic acid, my dear students. So please remember that uh, here the carboxylic acid with one carbon in IUPAC system, which is known as the methanoic acid. In common name, it is known as the formic acid. Ethanoic acid which is having 2 carbon. In common name it is called acetic acid. This formic acid is found into the sting of the insects. So various stings, when they give you, various insects when they give you stings, sorry my dear students. So this formic acid is found into the insects of many, in the sting of the many insects like ant and many other. Same way acidic acid or the ethanoic acid is found into the vinegar, and this vinegar is used as a preservative into the pickles at your home, my dear students. Now my dear students, we want to study about the uh, special phenomena. We want to study about the esters. So esters, my dear students, have the suffix YL as well as OA. So the first or simplest ester is known as the methyl methanoate, which is having structure CS3, COO, CS3. This portion, which is before COO, is written as the end of the part, end of the name, and this part which is smaller, it should be smaller. So the prefix of the name should be written with the smaller number of carbon. So one carbon, that is methane, that methane turns to be methyl, and this ethane with 2 carbon turns out to be ethanoate, and that is why the name of this compound is methyl ethanoate. Same way, my dear students, here you can see that this portion has got 2 carbon, this portion has also got 2 carbon, so it becomes ethyl, because 2 carbon and this become ethanoate, and this is how you get this compound named as ethyl ethanoate. Same way, my dear students, if you look at this structure, you will see that there are 3 carbon in this part, whereas only 1 carbon. So this part we will call it methyl because it has got 1 carbon. This has got 3 carbon, so it is propanoate. And this is how, my dear students, we get methyl propanoate. Same way, my dear students, if you look at this, you have 3 carbon and 2 carbon. This is what we call it as a ethyl. And this portion is known as the propanoate. And this is how, my dear students, we can write the ethyl propanoate even. So this is how, my dear students, we study the various esters with us. But please remember here a very interesting thing that I'm going to share with you. Something very interesting that I'm going to share with you. You can see here, my dear students, that when you look at the some of the esters that we have seen, we have just seen some of the esters. Look at these 2 esters I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ethyl ethanoate and methyl propanoate. If you look into these 2 esters, you will come to know that they both have 4 carbons. These both have 4 carbons, and their molecular formula is C4H8O2. You can see they both have 4 carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4 carbon. Here also 1, 2, 3, 4 carbon. Now if we count the number of hydrogen, we find 3 plus 2, 5 plus 3, 8. Here even we can see that we have 3 plus 2, 5 plus 3, 8. And 2 oxygen you can see here in the COO form. So both these compounds have same molecular formula, but you can see that they have different structures. So let us study about those compounds which have same formula but different structures. Let us look at them. Some compounds have same molecular formula but different structure. Such compounds are called the isomers of each other. So my dear students, we can see here that ethyl ethanoate and methyl propanoate are also the isomers of each other. And let us study this isomerism in detail. So let's have a look to the various types of isomerism that we want to or we may study. You can see here, my dear students, that we will study about the isomerism. We have seen that those compounds which have same molecular formula but different structures are known as the isomers. Isomers can be of three types. One is known as the chain isomer, another is known as the position isomer, and third one is known as the functional isomers, my dear students. Chain isomers, they have the various arrangement of the carbon. For example, if you think about the pentane, which have 5 carbon, these 5 carbon can be joined in a same line. But this 5 carbon can also be joined in this way that 4 carbons are in same line and 1 carbon is above the second carbon, or these five carbons are joined in such a way that we have 3 carbon in same line, whereas 1 carbon contains 2 other carbon bonded to it. So my dear students, this is the kind of isomerism which is known as the chain isomerism, my dear students, and let us study about the chain isomerism first. So in a chain isomerism, you can see that the compounds have a different chain of carbon. So when they have different chain of carbon, such compounds are known as the chain isomers of each other. You can see that we have CH3, CH2, 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 CH3. We may have CH3, CH, CH2, CH3 with CH1 methyl group is bonded, and we may have this CH3, CCH3 with this carbon. We have two more methyl group bonded with this. So these three are not the same compound. They have different structures. This one is known as the normal pentane. This one is known as the isopentane, and this one is known as the neopentane, my dear students. And this is how we have the chain isomers. If you look at their molecular formula, my dear students, you will find that they all have 5 carbon and 12 hydrogens. So this kind of isomerism is known as the chain isomerism. Now, my dear students, we are going to study about the position isomerism. So here the position of the functional group is at different carbon. So they have same molecular formula. You can see the molecular formula is same for all these compounds, but they have different structures, and that is why they are known as the position isomers. You can see here that OH group is present on the first carbon here, but here the OH group is present on the second carbon. That is why this compound is known as 2-propanol, whereas this compound is known as 1-propanol. Both have 5 carbon, 10 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, and that is why 1-propanol and 2-propanol are called the position isomers. Same way, my dear students, in case of the pentane, you can have the CO group present on third carbon, or you can have the CO group present on second carbon. If the CO group is present on third carbon, we call it 3-pentanol. If second group is present on if CO group is present on second carbon, we call it 2-pentanol. Both have 4 carbon. Both have 4 carbon, 8 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, and this is how both have 5 carbon, 10 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, and this is how, my dear students, we understand about the 3-pentanol and 2-pentanol, which are the position isomers of each other. Same way, when you look at the double bond, my dear students, if double bond is present after 1 carbon, we call it 1-butene, because there are 4 carbon, and if double bond is present after second carbon, we call it 2-butene. And this is how 1-butene and 2-butene are also the position isomer. Same way, my dear students, 1-butyne and 2-butyne. In 1-butyne, we have the triple bond after first carbon, and in 2-butyne, we have the triple bond after second carbon. And this 1-butyne and 2-butyne can also be called